Silent mode.
Good. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Hamilton Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, December 16th. It's hard to believe. We will start off with our Pledge of Allegiance, as we always do. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States
of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Let's see, we'll start off with a couple of announcements and board and committee openings. The Council on Aging has one opening. The Recreation Committee has an opening. The Hamilton Historic District Commission has an opening for an alternate, and the Open Space Committee has an opening. Now we have our time for public comment. If anybody would like to, you sure, either one, yeah.
Thank you. My name is Eric Filer. I'm a facilities manager at Asbury Grove, and I'm here to request that the water rate for the master meter just be placed on the agenda, in the near future.
Okay.
I know there was some discussion amongst the selectmen, so thank you for that.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay, great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Duke Seaver, 402 Essex Street. I'd like to ask the board to find a way to put our schedule on the Hamilton television. A lot of people don't have computers, but if they see it on television, what's coming up, you might get more people attending.
Put the agenda on the television?
Put the agenda on there.
Well, Bill Melville's here tonight. He's in the closet. He's the one we can talk to see if there's a
Just a
possible way.
request.
Yeah, good idea.
That is a good idea.
Yeah, I know how they put those
Everyone
kind of
watches TV.
place cards on what shows are coming up
Right,
or reruns
right.
of the planning board or whatever like
Yeah.
that. That's not a
I-
bad
Yeah,
idea.
That's a
good idea.
See if Bill's open to it.
Thanks, Duke. Okay, now is the time for Selectmen and Town Manager reports. Sean, I want to start off with you.
Sure. Let's see. We had stuff a cruiser over the weekend. The weather wasn't very cooperative, but I think we did pretty good. I can't remember the totals from all the toys we got. We had a history fair at the high school last week.
Yeah.
Rosie and Darcy joined me there for some honorary judging, and all the kids really put their heart and soul into it, and some of the things they were all really good, but some of them were really outstanding. And let's see, the Waste Reduction Committee meets tomorrow, I believe, and they have a few things on their agenda. Basically, they're looking at a new postcard mailing and a possible robocall and getting the word out about how the change in the program will be starting in January. And then working on talking about composting in the schools, etc. And then we didn't have a CPC meeting. We're taking a bi-month, I guess. We'll meet January 9th for that. And what else did I have? Oh, the e-waste day, if you have electronic waste, is the 21st at the DPW from 8 to 12 right here at Town Hall, behind Town Hall. I think that's really all I have for today.
Great. Thank you.
History fair again, same thing. It was really incredible how hard they had worked and the variety of subjects that they covered. It was breaking barriers in history, and I just thought it was really great. I'd like to go again next year. A reminder, there's a school committee meeting on Wednesday to vote on. We're going to be voting on member appointments, but I guess they're going to have a draft budget, so maybe we can get a copy of that before too long. Do you think they'll be able to give us?
I'll get it if I can.
Okay,
I'll
great.
forward it to you as soon as I have it, yeah.
And I think that's about it. That's it.
All right, great, thank you. Rosie, do you have anything?
A few things. Yes, indeed, the history fair was really fun. The kids were, oh my gosh, they were phenomenal. And I was very impressed, and thank you to all the students for inviting us to come. So just a couple of things. I'm working with the seniors again. The seniors are still interested in finding a way to have a senior van, and I reminded them that they now have CADA, which Joe has negotiated, and Brad Hill worked hard to negotiate that. But some of the seniors are still feeling like that doesn't offer quite as much freedom as they would like. And so I said, well, we're going to have to do something about this, which doesn't involve town money. So the seniors are interested in maybe doing some fundraising. And as a help to that, I went to talk with Sheila Taylor, who's the Ipswich COA, executive director, who had just a plethora of information, and I thought she was super. They have a combination of CADA, 2 senior vans, and volunteers. So I was very impressed and wanted to dig into how they did that. I also had a meeting with a local resident who's on the garden club board with me. Her name is Kristen Alexander, and she's a dynamo in nonprofits and fundraising, and got some great ideas from her. So I'll be meeting with the senior group again after Christmas. So they're feeling heard, which is really nice in terms of what they feel is important to them. I've always had a very special place for the seniors, and want to do whatever I can to help. So the other things, Conservation Commission started to review the revised town wetlands bylaw, but they're really looking for a new Conservation Commission agent to help guide them in their decisions. And so, and then the other part of the Concom is waiting to hear from the Concom about their request for the 6.6 acre parcel at the homestead to be placed under their control. There's some more information that we need before we can make a decision about that. And then finally, just very briefly, talk about the bonfire that's going to be held in town on January 4th from about 6 until 8. Have a lot of wonderful people on board. The community house has offered some of their facility. Some of the town departments, Tim Olson, Sean Timmons, Chief Ray Burnett, and Chief Russ Stevens have all offered their opinions about how we can make this run safely and as inexpensively as possible. So we have a small committee of citizens working on this to try to make it a really fun time, and the most important thing is to make it inexpensive. We're sort of thinking, use what you have. So one of the fun things we're planning is to have reindeer games of skill. So we'll see how that goes. But so we're planning that, and more to come on the website and on Facebook page, and we'll be posting some flyers around town. Okay, sorry
Great.
it took so long.
Excellent. No, thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I add just one more thing that
Yeah,
I
of course.
neglected? The Open Space Committee is working diligently at finishing up the Open Space and Rec Plan, as their kind of funding is getting close to the end here. And also, you may have seen in your emails a letter from Richard Boroff, the Open Space Committee, about Cutler Park and it needing a little bit of love and new signage and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I just want to make
Yeah.
you all aware of that.
Great. All right. I just have 3 things. First of all, the Town Hall Building Committee met last week, Jack, I think that was, with the Hamilton Historic District Commission. It was a really productive meeting. The Town Hall Building Committee took a lot of the suggestions that the Hamilton Historic District Commission had made, communicated that with the architect, and came back with really nice results in terms of, especially the issues were the exterior of the building with the new addition on the back for the elevator and the staircase, in addition to being able to work with the existing stage, and of course the front or the side, front, whatever staircases will remain. And their whole philosophy is don't take away anything that can't ever be restored or returned to its present condition. So that was a big issue in terms of why we should keep the stage.
Right, and there's some cost savings with that
And there's
as
some
well.
cost savings as well. So it was a really good meeting. And I'm sure that those drawings will be out on the website if they're not already. School committee meeting, I just wanted to talk about real quickly. Who is
There.
Yeah?
You got
Okay, so
We
there'll
have
be
a
a
quorum,
quorum.
yep.
I
We have a
won't be
quorum.
able to be there.
I don't know about
That's
Bill,
all
but I'll reach out to him too
Okay.
if you can too.
Okay, great, perfect. And that school committee meeting is, we have a position to fill from a Hamilton resident and I think there are 3 different applicants.
There's
Two
Yeah,
applicants?
I was told there were 3, but they only sent over 2 applications today, so
Okay.
somebody must have changed their mind.
Got you, okay. Thank you all for being able to go. And then if the board will allow me, I'd like to yield my time to David Thompson to talk about the good work that the Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary Task Force has been up to.
Thanks, Jeff. Dave Thompson, 103 Essex. I'll try and make this as brief as possible. The task committee's been working with the new leadership of Gordon Conwell now since sometime this past summer. Had a number of meetings up there. They're great people to deal with. We have a wonderful working relationship, good communication going on. Right now, we're pursuing 4 different ventures with them, ideas that have been brought up. The first has to do with temporary office space for town hall staff during the renovation of town hall. And we've asked for some availability of their space since their facilities are typically underutilized. They've offered the Pilgrim House and also the Retreat House up there. They've been viewed by Patrick as well as Tim Olson. And Patrick is quite enthralled with the Pilgrim House building, which is the first house on the driveway as you go up. It'll be offered to us rent-free, but I guess we have to see if we can get some competitive bids that are even cheaper than that in order for the town to take advantage of that, but whatever. So that looks good, and that should take a lump of money off of the town hall budget. The second venture is relative to affordable housing. The situation with the seminary now is that their enrollment is down considerably, particularly resident students. Consequently, their infrastructure is highly underutilized. They have high vacancy rates in their buildings. So we suggested that since we're in dire need of some affordable housing units, that we might work out an arrangement to buy or lease or something some of their excess space. And we hit a sweet spot, I guess. They responded to that quite positively and have indicated a willingness to sell, not lease, 2 of their dormitory buildings, which are typically 30 units, 2-bedroom units, 32-bedroom units per building. So it'd be 60 units of 2-bedroom housing, plus or minus, and a chunk of land that would be sold to an affordable housing developer. Andrew, of course, came to the forefront.
40R.
Andrew DeFranza is a graduate of Gordon Conwell. And so he's met with the folks up there, and things seem to be going in the right direction. Russ has talked with the state folks, and they said they're going to work with us to make this happen. And so it is off on the right track. It's going to be brought up at their Gordon Conwell board meeting in either February or May for endorsement of the concept. And so we await for that vote. The third item on the shopping list was discussion of our water storage needs and the master plan requirement for storage capacity, most economically achieved by 2 tanks, one on Silly's Hill and one up on Browns Hill. The site on Browns Hill would be on the town property, the 2 acres that we own up there, which happens to be right next to their beautiful library, and a precast concrete water tank next to the library went over like a lead balloon. And so after the president stopped jumping up and down at the table, we decided that we need to look at mitigating methods to mitigate the visual impact of our water tank on our property. So at this point, the town is about to engage Dewberry to do a preliminary feasibility study for the water tank and distribution systems associated with water storage. We kind of put that on a little bit of a hold so that we can adjust the scope of Dewberry studies to include alternatives that might mitigate the visual impact to Gordon Conwell, including alternate locations they might make available up on the hill, or putting the tanks underground, or any other technically feasible solution that might be come up with. I've requested that they consider a cost-sharing participation in that study, which I think makes sense. I've also indicated that would be the town's position that if we come up with some other solution, such as an underground tank, that the town would be willing to pay for the cost of an above-ground tank on our site, and that any additional costs associated with below-ground construction or alternative sites or pipes associated with all that stuff would be at the cost of Gordon Conwell. So that's what's on the table for that. And the final item deals with a potential cell antenna site. Obviously, Browns Hill is the highest topographic point in the town of Hamilton. The town recently completed a study with Isotrope Wireless, doing modeling of the site, various, I think 5 different locations up on the top of the hill for coverage. And the study demonstrated considerably improved coverage of many of the parts of town if an antenna was constructed up there. What we've asked for from Gordon Conwell is a letter indicating that the town and Gordon Conwell are jointly considering and will be approaching various antenna companies or cell phone companies to consider construction of an antenna up on the hill, see if we can generate any interest for the sites that they have considered feasible up there. On that issue, during our discussions, we found that there is space available in the steeple. However, the 5G technology that Verizon would like to put someplace has some health implications potentially, and that steeple building is also a dormitory. So I don't think we'll ever see a Verizon 5G installation in the steeple, but there are 4 or 5 other locations up there that they might make it available. That's as quick as I could be.
That's great.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave.
Dave?
Yes.
Dave, just a question. Do you have any information about health implications of G5,
Is it radiation?
5G? That's caught my attention. I don't understand.
I haven't read up on it, Rosie. I know that there's a lot of literature out there. I don't know how valid the science is. I think there's a great deal of controversy, but I certainly can understand their position. They have several hundred students living in a dormitory, and it's got a steeple on the top, and if they put up something
Right.
that is
Sure.
even perceived to be a risk, that's just not something they're
Well,
likely
of course. So I'm just wondering, well, maybe I'll just contact you and you could point me in the direction
to do.
of
Actually, Peter
the
Clark
research.
would be the appropriate one for that.
Okay, thank you.
I have no direct information on it whatsoever.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much, Dave.
That all sounds like progress.
Yeah, a lot of progress.
I'm
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised. I mean, how long have we been banging our head against the wall here with them, right? Years and years and years.
Decades, yes,
right?
yes.
So this is great. Hats off to you guys.
Yeah.
Working
Thank
group.
you.
Well, I think credit also goes to the new leadership up there.
I think so too, yeah. There's been a change kind of there.
The change in the economic drivers that is driving that education system.
We're coming to the tipping point right in there. Yeah.
Focuses the attention.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, sir, town manager report.
I've noticed that I have quite a few typos in my town manager report, so I'll be fixing this before we post it online tomorrow. And some of the issues that I was going to go over were covered by you folks, but I'll hit a couple of high points for everybody. Real quick on the CADA, Rosie alluded to earlier, CADA did vote formally to accept the town's request to join last week, and I'll be working with a committee of folks, including the COA director, a member of the board, a representative from the Housing Authority, and potentially some other users of the senior center to kind of work with CADA to develop what our program would look like. So hopefully we'll get some. Hopefully we'll be able to answer some of the concerns of the seniors on that. And I would note that when you voted to ask us to join CADA and send me as your emissary to that meeting, I think the vote was taken to assume my representation to their board. So if you want to just let that stand, or you could do a formal vote. Most of the towns, there's 4 other towns besides us that participate. The board of directors is comprised of their town managers and town assistants, except in Essex, they have a resident who was appointed to serve in that role.
Do we need to formalize it?
They just asked to be told, if you want to let your previous vote stand, I'll tell them the last vote covered that, or you can have a quick vote here tonight and do what you want to do.
good.
Up to you. All right.
I'm good.
We're good. Okay.
You're the man.
That's about the motion if we had to.
I wanted to also let people know that we're calling it the Umbrella Committee. It's an idea of David Wanger's from back in November or so. He'd sent out some requests of folks of major committees in town just to try to get us all understanding what everybody's working on. It doesn't have any statutory authority, but the idea would be to get either the chairs or representatives of some of the major boards and committees in town to meet quarterly or a couple times a year to just kind of trade notes and know what everybody's working on. So that would be the Planning Board, the Finance Committee, Planning Board, Finance Committee, Board of Selectmen, probably the Conservation Commission, the Capital Committee. If I'm forgetting some, don't feel neglected. The Affordable Housing Trust. A lot of the issues that these different boards and committees work on intersect with each other, and one board might be working along with a good head of steam thinking it's doing the right thing, and then they run into an unexpected obstacle that isn't meant as an obstacle. It's just that the other boards or committees are working on something else, and they conflict. So the idea was to try to get folks around a room together. So it wouldn't be an open meeting type of thing. This would just be the chairs, as I said, getting together on a regular basis to kind of trade notes and keep everybody apprised of what's going on. So we're hoping that group will get kicked off in January. So, Mr. Chairman, if you don't want to come, designate somebody from your board to participate.
I think it's a great idea.
And we'll try to get that started there next month.
Okay.
Also next month, I did reach out to Sharon Kashida from Mass DEP. She's what's known as a municipal assistance coordinator. She works with DEP in the solid waste programs, and she works with Hamilton and 39 other communities, or 38 other communities up here in the Northeast. And she's willing to come to have a meeting here in town before we kick off our every other week trash collection program. She could do it as either part of the Board of Selectmen's meeting. I think your next meeting's on the 13th, or she could do it as a standalone meeting. I'd like to give her some structure of having it kind of be under the umbrella of something, so it could be a special Board of Selectmen meeting just having to do with that. But her goal would be to just kind of share information from the state's perspective of what's going on with solid waste collection and recycling, and why so many communities are switching to pay-as-you-throw systems. She did note for me that, right next door in Manchester, they have a complete pay-as-you-throw program. They don't have any solid waste removal that's for free. They pick up composting and recycling streams for free, and everything in the black bin is charged every week. So she noted that for me, and I was like, well, you should probably share that information with the folks here in town. I did want to let you know, too, that Superintendent Kuchenberger did share with us that the MSBA has chosen not to accept their statement of interest in a school project, but has provided them information so that they can use that information to reapply for the next cycle. So we always knew a school project would be a big lift, so and it's going to take some time to get them up in the priority list. So Also, on Monday, December 9th, I was able to host a meeting of the North Shore Coalition. North Shore Coalition is kind of mediated or moderated by the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, but it's a collection of managers and mayors from the North Shore, and we kind of talk about shared problems, interests. What we've been working on lately is shared approaches to solving kind of the region's transportation challenges. So I can share more information with you folks on that, but we're looking at things like they wanted to go out and do a joint procurement of potentially bike share program across the North Shore. One of the things that has come up is that the bike share companies are going out of business. They're being taken over by scooter companies. So that kind of changes how we look at it. I'd love to have your input and feedback, whether or not you think Hamilton would be ready to take on that step. The challenge here is closing what's known as the first and last mile transportation gap. The public transportation infrastructure has a problem, and that doesn't go right to people's doors. So getting that last mile to get people to utilize the public transportation infrastructure is critical. So micromobility, such as bikes and scooters, is one way that people are trying to solve that problem. And the 16 or so mayors and managers would like to do a joint procurement to see what we could get. If we
Like a feasibility study?
Well, we do.
something?
We'd go out and get quotes
Go to
to see
bid.
what go out to bid. And if we went out to bid just solely for bicycles, what we've been told so far, because we did, the MAPC already did a request for information, and all bike share programs would come with some cost for the municipalities. They want the municipalities to spend some money to buy the infrastructure. Right. On scooters, they are willing to enter the market for free. So evidently, whatever they've been doing in other communities has shown that they're getting more money, and the system is less costly to maintain if it's scooters as opposed to bicycles. So those are just things to think about.
That seems like the opposite, but
Are the scooters internal combustion engines, or are they
Motor
They're
solar
usually
powered,
electric. They're electric
Oh, that's even
motors.
better.
Electric motors, so.
Oh, good.
You know, except honestly, I've seen a lot of kids in Boston on these,
Generally,
and I think we should really think about that, folks, before we,
right, and especially in Essex
Lot of
County,
challenges,
where
yeah.
there's a lot of people that ride their bikes on the road,
Right.
but we have no bike lanes, no
right?
shoulders, really.
If
It's
we
at
don't
your own
have
risk,
the
really, right?
infrastructure
Yeah.
to support that in there. So I think that's something we should really think about.
Not saying, I'm just letting you know what the
Yeah.
conversation.
No, I like-
And all
I like
these,
the
all
idea
these
of
things
it.
were discussed with the group of mayors too. So think of the 60 communities that participated. I think we had 11 of them here in the memorial room last Monday, which is nice.
That's
Nice
pretty
to
good.
have them all come in.
It's interesting.
So it's fun. So, is there anything else? You talked about
IT.
Town Hall, IT. So we did enter it with grant support. Topsfield and Middleton fronted a regional IT solutions feasibility study, and we got the report and the data matrix back from the consultants last week. So the short of it is that there are opportunities to do work together with our neighboring communities, particularly on IT infrastructure. Equalizing software systems and such is going to be kind of one of the things that drives how much we're able to participate. But it's interesting stuff. It's not something that we can turn key and just jump into tomorrow. But the communities that participated in the feasibility study included, see if I can remember them all, Manchester, Essex, Hamilton, Wenham, Danvers, Topsfield, Middleton. I think I'm forgetting one. But there's some real good opportunities, particularly in the infrastructure space, when we get to start buying new computers and upgrading networks and things like that. There's an opportunity for us to share a joint buying power, but we need to be working with similar systems in order to make that work. So
Right.
those are some of the things we're trying to talk about to help get the town to look ahead to its IT needs and the investment it takes, but try to find a way to save money on it, which was a recommendation of the Capital Committee, which you'll be hearing from soon. So
Is that
I'll
part
wrap
of
up my
the
report.
paperless initiative? Was that
No,
tied into that, or is that separate?
It's separate, but I mean, if we undertake, when we undertake a paperless initiative, we'll need to have, sufficient infrastructure in terms of storage space in the cloud or whatever, and make sure that we have increased resiliency to cyber threats and increased resiliency to just data backup to make sure we don't lose things. So That's all, that's part of the study, but
Yeah.
specifically the going paperless is something we'd have to kind of do on our own. But we'd want to do it in a way that whatever we do could be accessed through what's coming, so.
And maybe mention the homestead events. Third
Homestead.
Thursday
Oh, yeah.
lecture series.
Yep, thank you. You read my whole report and probably noticed all the typos and were nice enough not to point them out to
I
me.
mark them all out as I send it to you.
Yeah, I've been noting them myself, so. The Patton Homestead is beginning a speaker series called Third Thursdays. They've already sold 8 tickets to the January event, which is a discussion on the Battle of the Bulge from somebody who was there, which I think is really interesting. And they also have an event coming up later this week that they've already sold several tickets to and have others who have called in to say they're coming. So they're actually selling tickets to the events. Depending on the topic is the price structure. I think it's $20 a person for the one in January on the Battle of the Bulge, only $5 a person for the one later this week. And that's just one other way that Kaylee's looking to try to bring more visitors to the place, but generate some revenue as well, so.
Great. Thank you, Joe.
Not a problem. I'll fix
Okay.
the typos and we'll get it up online
All
tomorrow.
right, sounds good. Okay, on to the agenda, and it looks like we are fortunate to have tonight the Hamilton Foundation. Looks like y'all are here. The season of giving. This is a good time to hear from you.
Thank you. We love to come here. It seems like it's sort of our January ritual. And thank you so much for allowing us.
Push it, it's December. Push it.
Well, we
Ahead of
do,
yourself.
we do operate 12 months of the year, so we could come another month if you'd like. And as usual, I have plenty of brochures if anybody's missing one. But anyway, our slogan, as you know, is neighbors helping neighbors, and it's not just a cliche for us. We really feel that way. And so we're a 5-person board, of which tonight we have Bill Burridge and John McWayne, and as you know, Jane Wetson is our coordinator. We have 2 other members.
You have a
Lori-
quorum right here.
Huh?
You have a quorum right here.
We do. I posted it. Because you never know. So we also have Jill Evers, who's our new member, and then Lori Johnson. And we had a very busy year this year, and part of our theme was to try to do a little bit more in the outreach area, because as you know, anytime you do anything, people always go, "Oh, I've never heard of you." Well, as you know, we've been a board since 2005, so that's a long time in municipal terms. We still don't take any tax dollars, so we're paid entirely through donations. This year we're as part of your water bill insert, so some people see that and some people don't. And it's our largest fundraiser for us personally. And then this year we also, for the first time, we became electronic, which was kind of a big deal for us.
It's a big step.
It's a huge step because we have a percentage of the population that does not use checks. And I was just telling the group that I think between about 15 to 20% of our donations have come in through ePay.
That's going to be my next question.
So, yeah, so we're very happy about that. I'm hopeful as people find out about it and get comfortable with it that will increase.
And Heather, did you tell me that those folks who paid online were people that were not likely to have donated in the past?
They were new to us.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was even more exciting. Yep.
Great.
I think there was only one repeat from the check world, so everybody else was new. So that's kind of exciting. So we're very happy. As you know, if anybody donates, you get a note from us. So it's easy to keep track of where we're going. So this year. There's a certain segment of the population I think people tend to forget here in Hamilton. You know, about 9% of our school population gets reduced in free lunches. And then as a community, like a lot of communities in Hamilton, we're able who maybe just, through a change in their family structure, divorce, illness, death, that they somehow find a need for our services. And so part of our outreach is to try to not only reach the people that need our services, but people that might know people that need our services. And Jane gets a lot of referrals through those kinds of people to say, "Oh, I think you should talk to my neighbor." And so that's the beauty of neighbors helping neighbors. So this year we did a little bit more with the Council on Aging. We got into the Hamilton Hamlet and the Senior Connection as ways to try to increase the outreach in that area. We participated in that very cold holiday stroll, and we did get some donations, so we were excited about that. If you shop at Crosby's, you'll notice that for 4 months this year we were part of their bag presentation. So if you use a bag, we were able to take some donations. And not only the donations, and then they left it up on the wall for another 4 months. So I felt like 8 months we got, people would know the Hamilton Foundation. So that's a great thing. And then we did switch out and brought on Jill Evers as our new member this year. So I think that's sort of a summary for where we are.
Excellent.
Going forward. I don't. Any of you guys want to say anything?
Well, we do also reach out to those that don't have water bills.
Okay, that's right.
So we went down and got a list of all the people that have wells and sent them personal requests. And we got some response from that. So I think we reach everybody in town one way or another.
Wow.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
great.
that was a new initiative that John and Bill took on this year. So that was great. That was a segment of the population that we hadn't reached before. So
How many people are on wells?
100.
Really? Wow. Substantial. For people listening at home and watching at home, for both of your constituencies, the people that you're helping, how would they get in touch with you? How best to get in touch with you? And for people who are interested in donating, how would they go about that?
They should go to
The best-
website.
so we did get a ruling from our prior town council that we are an official municipal trust, so people can use their donations charitably. And we are on the if you Google Hamilton Foundation, Hamilton, Mass, we have a web page, and you can go
Great.
right there, and that'll lead you right to where you can donate.
Great.
And there's also a phone number there as well as in our brochures. In our brochures, we have put them in the ECO, we put them at the community house, Accord, all the schools. They're here at the town hall, the library.
Great.
And we have some posters that John has kindly made and put them all around town. So we're just trying to increase, just so people know about us and have some visibility. And Accord certainly knows we were part of the Stuff a Cruiser program this year. Jane had a list of children in town that could use some extra Christmas gifts. So the Stuff a Cruiser not only went to Shriners, it went also to local Hamilton kids. So that's a nice marrying of things.
Heather,
It was last Saturday in all that rain. I mean, it was a really icky day, but
They moved the cruiser indoors, right?
Yeah.
The public safety building? Yeah.
when I was there, it
It
was
was out for a
outside.
while, but then
Yeah.
they moved stuff
Oh,
inside.
okay.
It's getting really.
Yeah, it was really, they were all drenched when I was there. But Jane said we did quite well, so.
Heather, have you seen an increase in the last year or two? Or does it seem to be kind of steady state?
I would say it's been steady since almost from day one, So we're somewhere between about 17 to 25, 26 families every year, depending on the year. And it's hard to say because our year and this calendar year are slightly off.
Yep.
So it's not a perfect science, but we tend to be right in that same ballpark.
Heather, do you have any figures as to what, how your income has grown?
Our income remarkably stays about the same.
Does,
We almost always take in about what we put out.
Okay, so net zero.
It's we hold a budget number because I promised that we'd never come back for any tax dollars. So I'm very conscious of that number. So I make sure that we don't ever go below that number. But everything that we collect pretty much goes back out again. And we watch it when we're donating. Like we decided this year when the donations were coming in a little bit slower, not to donate this year. We decided to pull back from giving a scholarship at the high school and places where other people could fill in those needs.
All right.
So we
okay.
just try to look ahead to see where, to manage our money.
Okay,
So,
good job.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
oh, it's great. Well, thank you, all of you. I know several of you are good donators, so thank you very much for that. And anybody listening at home, go on the website and donate. So,
Absolutely, please.
okay.
Thank you, Heather.
All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming.
Time to change hats?
I know it's not quite as much fun, is it, guys?
All right.
Thank you.
Let's see.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you,
Jack.
Thanks for coming. Okay, next up is the draft capital committee report on the 5-year capital priorities. Heather again?
Sorry.
Heather again?
Sorry.
Both of you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here for moral support?
No, I invited them. They should come.
No, I know.
We're-
We're
Just
just
supporting you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're a fun group. Okay, you ready for me?
You were ready.
Okay, hello, I'm Heather Ford. I'm the chair of the Capital Committee. We have a five-person board, of which tonight two members are here. We have Dave Thompson and Jack Lawrence, and Bill Wilson and Bob Woodbury were unable to be here tonight. But I was communicating with Bill up till about 20 minutes ago, so he's out there someplace. But he had a previous commitment. So you folks of all of us would know best how this was all come about, but late 2018, 2019, the Capital Committee was formed. The idea was that we were going to be supportive of the town manager, that would be our primary role, to help in this case him, to help him figure out what were some of the priorities in town. So we held our first meeting on June 30th, which seems like eons ago. And then we pulled ourselves together. We looked at, there was a lot of information that had been pulled together on some fiscal policies and on sort of how this whole capital committee would come together. A lot of the work done by Scott Mattern, who you're certainly aware of. And then we took all that information. We divided ourselves kind of neatly into our groups. Everybody took a different department or different board. And then we decided, okay, we better create a mission statement, which we did. We created a mission statement, and then we went out to each one of those boards. Joe had sent out a note telling all the department people that we were coming. Everybody went out to met with their particular person or group and said, this is who we are. This is the first time that we've ever had a capital committee. And so we started down that path. So that's what sort of took us through the summer. And then we got into the fall. Joe then went back to his department heads and said, okay, when you're doing your budgets this year, this is what you should do. We'd like you to try to use this template. Some did, some didn't. Some did sort of an in-between. So that'll be something we'll have to work on going forward. But we did eventually come into our own. We developed as a group our own template where to put that information. Let me tell you that Bill is just an absolute blessing in that regard. He took all of our thoughts, put it into a really nice spreadsheet for us. So it looks really good, and I think Joe has been pretty happy with it. So we met the Friday, or the budgets came in the Friday before Thanksgiving, and then since Thanksgiving we met 5 times. Because that was sort of our show time. We took all of these capital requests. If you remember, when we were formed, there was 10 criteria. So we took those 10 criteria and mushed them into 5 because 10 was just too unwieldy, and 5 seemed like a good number. So we were happy. We took all of that. And then we took you have copies of it in front of you. Okay, great. So you can see that from the copy in front of you that what we did is then when we were in our meeting, we took all the priorities only for fiscal year 21. We felt, given it was the first year and there's a lot of uncertainty, people weren't sure how to use it, all that stuff, that we would just focus on year 1 with a lot of comments on the 4 or 5 years going out to kind of help Joe and the Finance Committee and anybody else that was interested in the Board of Selectmen, whoever was interested in looking at it, some things that we thought you should be thinking about. Once we got that developed, we then went back to our individual department heads and said, this is how we've rated and ranked your request. So they are all aware of it, and we then set aside a date when they could come in and meet with us. We only had two of the department heads come in and meet with us. Everybody else said, okay, we're comfortable with it, with how we rated and ranked their request. And then we delivered it to Joe a week ago today. So everybody should be on board with what's in there. We made some suggestions, as you can see, for some of the out years. We hadn't had, as you know, the schools are sort of a huge wild card right now, and Bill did go to the meeting this week, and he came back with some thoughts. He then updated the sheet. I don't know what sheet you have in front of you.
The bigger one should be the one he sent me today, I
Okay,
believe,
yep,
because
yep.
I saw that and I reprinted, so.
Okay. So, yeah, when I talked to him earlier, he said, well, I sent it out and I included Joe's just because we had talked about it at the meeting last week.
It should be, but maybe I grabbed the wrong one, so, well.
Okay.
but,
Well, if you didn't, it's coming. but it'll be the first of many, I would assume, as we go back and forth on that. Either of you guys want to add anything?
I think the only other thing is about.
Jack, if you could, sorry to bother you, but if you could come up for the folks at home. Thank you.
Jack's voice.
Well, you could probably hear him, but they want to see his handsome face.
The only other issue that we looked at, I think, quite closely was the timing of some of these expenditures, and to the extent that they had to be done when they were originally scheduled, whether they should be pushed out or pulled back, in which direction they should go. And an awful lot of that depends, of course. The effort ultimately is going to be try to even out the cash uses and sources, and two big wild cards, the one being the school mentioned, the other being, of course, town hall project, are massive. So those are in the sensitivity area are big deals. But that's the only other issue.
Okay, great, thank you.
And to that last point that Jack raised, I just note that, they are two large projects that would be, massive and expensive for the town to undertake, fortunately, or unfortunately, as you may believe from your different perspectives. We have a project that's moving forward through the stream with the town hall building right now, and it will be at least 5 years or so before we would be at a similar stage with the schools. The MSBA process is long. The news from MSBA that the schools weren't accepted into the current funding stream means that it'll be several years out. So we have time to be able to try to schedule this work and understand that, how to get it into our debt service, and or for those that need debt service, and how to schedule the other things so that then they don't create a budgetary impact. So. I've been very, very, very happy, not just pleased with, but or satisfied with, but very happy with the work of the Capital Committee. They've been great to work with. I've only had to meet with them a couple times, but they've really taken the bull by the horns and provided us with the kind of feedback and input we needed. The Town Manager Act puts the responsibility on determining or presenting a capital plan on the town manager, but it's a community, and it's your resources that have to be identified, and it's nice to have feedback from people other than just the folks that work for the town to help put this all together. I think that Heather's right. The feedback from the committee was pretty well received from the department heads. At least none of them have shown up in my office yelling and screaming and stomping their feet. So that tells me that they're...
Well, I'd be surprised at that, just given that we've tried to take that personal approach, because that's the best way to get things done.
They're all understanding of the situation and of what we're trying to do moving forward. So I think this is a great first-year effort, and we'll continue to build on it and tweak it and improve it in the future years. But this starts the process. So now we have an understanding of what are kind of are the priorities for this year, and Marissa and I have to figure out how to try to pay for them, how to propose to pay for them, so that we can present that to the
now comes the
FinCom
hard
town
work,
meeting,
right?
so.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All that's left to do is everything, as they say.
Well, the template that you have there, the thought was, from our perspective, is somehow we'd get the department heads more ingrained in that, so we wouldn't have to do the transfer over. So that will be something to work on for next year.
Something we can do going forward, and
Yeah.
and what you see in front of you should be like a 7-year plan. So it's the current year and the past year, and then 4 years out. So
Did the
think we
FY
got-
19 and 20, are they still on that sheet?
19 and 20 are here, and then you have
Year and then-
FY 21, the 5 years going ahead,
Right,
21 through
Right.
25.
Ma-
So that's a good way to have a both the historical context of what you've been recently doing and what you've got coming down the road, so that you can try to, again, plan for the expenditures more than anything else.
No, I think the whole thing is great. I think you guys have done wonderful work with it, and I think this is only going to help. It really hasn't been that long. We, as the Board of Selectmen, have been working on a 3- and 5-year capital plan, which we should have been doing all along, but what's really only been the last 5 or so years we've been looking kind of forward. And now this document is going to help us even more, and plus this document, I hope we can share this with all of our departments and everyone so they can get the big picture, because it's usually
yeah.
been our board and the FinCom.
Yeah, there should be no secrets on
No,
there,
no
right?
secrets
Yeah.
No
at
secrets.
all. So
No secrets at all.
I think this will help everybody look
Right.
at it and future cast for when they can do different projects and stuff like that, and
And
it's
actually
just
put
gonna
it
be
out there,
so-
might make us identify some things that, oh, wait, you forgot about this.
Well, I hope
I'm sure
not.
that's coming, but I hope not.
I would be very
No
sad if that
surprises.
happened, but I suppose it's always the case. And, some of the notes on the side should help you and the FinCom as you're going forward, to think about, somebody requested something spread out over 3 years. Our thought was, like Jack said about timing, maybe we should do it in 1 year. That might make more fiscal sense. So
Right, and I think this will help our relationships with the school committee in Wenham as well. If I'm thinking one thing like the library roof was one of the things I saw in the email,
yeah.
right? And it's
Oh, yeah.
hot button topic.
it's a hot
right?
button topic.
And so, that and with their financial situation, trying to figure out when it's best to do that and other projects that we share services with them, with the rec department, et cetera. It's going to be
And whether we
helpful.
want to share any future services, the idea of buying these large pieces of
Right, the
DPW
DPW
equipment, would it make sense to just buy it and share it between the two communities rather than each community spending a lot of dollars?
Right.
And there seemed to be some interest. Bill went over and met with some of the folks over there, and there seemed to be some
good.
interest in some of that. So
That's good. So Heather, this is maybe broadening the issue a little bit, but in terms of our municipal vulnerability program, the question is, what items on this budget list would be available for any state or federal funding, and how would we go about trying to secure those funds? I know the major things are water security, water infrastructure, and then also power and making sure that we don't suffer from blackouts. But had you considered in your discussions any of these capital expenditures that could be part of the MVP program and that? Have you explored that at all?
do you want to respond to that at all? You have to come up here.
I'll try and wing it. There are notes in the right-hand column with respect to Chapter 90 funds for some of the
Chapter 90,
DPW expenses.
Yeah.
And where we were aware of outside resources, first of all, that was in the ranking structure. If you look at the prioritization
Yep.
schedule, which is printed, I think, on the last page. If there's outside funding, I think that sort of qualified for like a rank of 2. Public safety was the only one that was ranked
Right.
higher than that, so we're cognizant of that, but I don't think that we made a rigorous analysis of all of the funding sources. But it was a general recommendation from the committee that we look at a grant finding consultant or whatever
Right.
to deal with some of these things. Somebody that's a lot more qualified than we are
Right.
in terms of understanding where you can get money from.
Right. Well, I think also, to be fair, the MVP still hasn't been finalized yet. We haven't applied for anything, but I just wondered if it's part of your thought process, because some of these items are pretty hefty. And
Well,
I'm,
and certainly, as we pointed out in there, it's clear that many of these things will be bonded. And so the cash flow is, you're not going to have $9.7 million falling out in the year that the town hall contract is
Right.
awarded. That's going to get spread over
Right.
30 years or something
Right.
like that. And it's
Right.
the same with a lot of the water infrastructure work. That'll get spread out, I'm sure.
yeah.
You can see this, under DPW, it was on the first page, there were two $3 million requests, I think, in year 23 and 25, if I'm not mistaken. And that's all associated with the construction of those water tanks I talked about earlier today.
So,
And that might be something
those
we
will be
could
bonded,
think
I'm
about.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that during conversations with Tim, that Dave spent some time talking about some of the water safety issues, and some of
Right.
the homeland security is a little bigger issue, but some of how to keep our systems secure. So Tim is aware of it. I don't think he's applied for any particular grant in those areas, but he is definitely aware of it. And we also involved Vicki in the conversation, and she talked to us a lot about some of the things that she's working on and thinking about, solar systems, on the different buildings, and
Right.
putting a charging station in the yard here.
Right.
So those are coming.
Yep.
So they're in the conversation. They just might not pop out of the sheet.
Right. I mean, obviously, you can't consolidate everything at once, but it's interesting to think about these
Oh,
possibilities.
definitely. I don't think there's a subject that we didn't touch in one of our meetings. So,
looks
when you have the whole town budget and everybody's looking at it, there's a lot of places to have conversations.
You had a huge task, though, and you've done wonderfully with it. I have kind of a side thing, since she mentioned Vicky and solar and stuff like that. Has National Grid made any moves on connecting us to Manchester and everything?
No,
yet?
when I talked to her 3 days ago, they hadn't.
They're on their own schedule on that.
That's what she
I can
told
reach
me.
out to find out.
That's
She
Okay.
said she
Can-
keeps tapping into them, and they just keep saying, coming, coming.
Yeah, I think.
Should I
that-
reach out to Brad, see if that helps a little bit? or-
Let me reach out to our, to Faith first and see what she
Yeah.
can, see if she can shake things loose for us. Yeah, I know that there's an outstanding, filing due to, with the deed and stuff, so, might not be a bad thing, they're not hooked up yet, because they're not all that legal paper. I know that our attorney told Amoresco today that the application for the S5 permit, or whatever it was,
Yeah.
not S5, it was, but the application was, for the filing in land court was made this week, so it might still be a few weeks
Come
before
together
we
at the same time.
get it
After
all
land court,
taken
I think
care
there's
of,
still
so.
a, having been through that before, there's still some time.
Yeah, there's a little lag time.
Yeah, well, what's their incentive too, right? So, we're kind of removing ourselves a little
Yes,
bit from their
exactly.
system,
That's
so.
why they've been a little slow about it.
I'm sure.
And it's not just National Grid. I mean, every one of the utility companies in the state, when I was working at MEPC, they were working to try to get movement on the power company out in the western part of the state, all along the turnpike, where you see some of those solar
Yeah,
fields
the big
that
arrays out
MassDOT
there.
owns. MassDOT couldn't get them to turn them on. So,
Right, so, yeah.
it's- They do get there eventually, but
Yeah.
they do drag
So
it.
it's coming, Sean.
Yes. Just anxious, it's been so long.
I know, it seems like, I just drove by there tonight myself, so I can appreciate that.
So Heather, what's the next step with this, after all this work you've done?
I think we go quiet for a while unless Joe needs us to come in and talk
Yeah.
about anything particular. I think the committee is willing to do that.
So
And
we-
our thought would be then, we'll help as we get close to the town meeting if you need help. Otherwise, we're sort of done, unless you call us back. And
Okay.
then,
Yeah, I mean, now that, we have now information that we could take into the regular process for kind of establishing the budget timeframe.
now I think
Had
it's
a-
FinCom's job to put
Yes.
on the yoke and move forward with it.
Well, we have to make a recommendation that FinCom can make a yay or nay on, and then town meeting votes, but we have to make a proposal. So
Okay.
we'll be doing that in short order.
Okay.
Hopefully, we usually meet right at the end of January, beginning of February, and the budget and the capital plan are all part of that meeting, so Marissa and I have some work to do.
Okay, all right. Well, if you need us, we're here. Otherwise, we'll just go quiet for a little while.
Take a break.
Okay?
Thank
Right.
you.
Enjoy the holidays.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
Heather.
you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
everybody.
Great job again.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.
Bill Wilson at home and Bob at home. All right. Next up, water abatements, discussion and vote.
Yes.
So you have two in here. One you tabled from the last meeting, and there's, should be some additional information provided to you from Tim Olson. I have it here. If you don't, I can make copies for everybody. Tim did give it to us this afternoon, but you had asked for some additional information on the water abatement for 294 Bridge Street, and then you also have a second abatement. It's a new one. This is a new request for 8 Martel Road. So, I believe the owner of 294 Bridge Street is here, if you have questions.
Oh, great.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Thanks for coming.
thank you for your time in this unfortunate situation.
Did you see,
All right.
did you see the additional information? Do you all have the additional letter from Tim?
I just have,
All right, so let me read this real quick for you. So,
Which one is this, Joe, that you're reading?
the one that was tabled from the last meeting. So
Okay.
if you recall, there were 2 abatements requested for the same property at the last meeting.
Right.
You agreed to abate the first one, and on Bill's question about whether or not it was consistent with the 1 every 10 years or not, you asked Tim to provide additional information. So Tim got back to us today and wrote the following. Mr. Tone applied for water abatement on 8/12/2019 and sent me the following information. The toilet was broken in running water from June 13th until August 8th. That period covered 2 billing periods. The bill that Mr. Tone received dated 8/1 covered the reading period from 4/10/19 to 7/16/19. The usage was 115 gallons. The bill for the bill was for $1,227. Since the toilet was not repaired until 8/8, there was an identical excessive amount of water use reflected on the next bill. The combined bills exceeded $2,500. When questioned about the time frame by Tim Olson and the reason the leak spanned 2 billing periods, the homeowner replied that he was in Hamilton on June 13th through June 22nd and then left. Prior to leaving, he used the facilities, and when he returned on August 8th, that was when he realized that the toilet had been running the entire time. So this wasn't your normal.
It was a fatal flush.
Yeah, it was.
Yes, that's it, yeah.
So this wasn't a normal, just like a leaking toilet. This was, he struck the, and it kept running. And so Tim said that when he looked into Mr. Olson's question about whether or not this was 1 or 2 incidents, I reviewed the abatement policy language. Section 5 of the policy reads, in the event the abnormally high consumption has occurred due to accidental or unpredictable leakage, as determined by the DPW Director of the Town of Hamilton Board of Selectmen, shall consider a one-time abatement per account during a 10-year period equal to half of the water consumption above normal consumption. It doesn't state 1 billing period. It says 1 event.
1 event, right.
And this was all tied up in 1 event. That's why Tim put it forward as 2 requests for you, because it wasn't 2 bills. But it's for you to consider. And if you have any questions, more questions for Mr. Tone, now that we have thoroughly talked about his bathroom issues in public.
And I think, and Bill's not here tonight to say why we kind of held it or he held it. I think it was basically because it was over 2 bills or 2 cycles, but it was 1 event. And I talked to Tim Olson after the fact, after our last meeting, and he had kind of described that situation to me. And then the fact, I think Bill's other question was that, you know, had he not seen the bill when he got it, and then it kind of went to 2 cycles. So you were out of town.
I was out of town
So-
for 48 days, until I came back and
Right.
walked in. The first thing I heard was the water running. Oh my God. That fatal flush.
Right, right.
48 days ago.
So I mean, given the circumstances of him being gone all that time, not seeing the bill, even though it went over 2 billing periods, it's 1 event, like you said, I'm fine with the abatement if anybody else is.
Just to let you know, too, Tim and I did look at the bill, and can offer to you all. You know, it actually used an identical 115,000 gallons.
Yeah, it was like
and when
this,
I was questioned, I was like, well, how does that work with the way he was away? It turns out he was away almost the exact same number of days in each billing period.
Yeah, it was like a
And
22
and
or
when
20,
you
whatever.
when you look at the home's typical water usage, you're talking about 2,000. 1,000 gallons in a typical billing cycle. In both of these, there were 115,000 gallons in a billing cycle. So this is clearly,
Homeowners insurance don't cover that?
Not a leaky toilet.
water bills? No.
Water bill,
No, I
no.
mean, the broken pipe.
Is a
If I have a
toilet.
copay.
It was a broken flapper valve in the toilet. It wasn't a broken pipe.
On the toilet, we didn't shut off the water.
And he wasn't home to notice.
This is the first time I've been in 39 years that I've lived here. I promise it won't happen again. My next door neighbor is checking my house.
Oh,
every
good.
couple of weeks, thanks to Bobby Clark.
For those of us sitting at home, just recognize that you should always check the toilet
Yeah.
is stopped before you leave the house.
That's, amen.
All right, well, I will entertain a motion to abate.
I make a motion that we approve the water abatement application for Pascal Tone at 294 Bridge Street.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
No?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very
Great.
much.
Yeah, thank you for
Welcome.
coming tonight.
Christmas.
Yes, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you, Pascal, for coming. And then you still have the other abatement,
Yes.
Another leaky toilet, it looks
Yeah.
like.
Yep, it looks like the same, with much less money.
Much less.
Yeah.
And I see the invoice for the plumber, so we know it's fixed.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion, then we can discuss it if we want to.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the water abatement application for Donna Kinney at 8 Martel Road.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to look a little bit. How long was this going on? Until one night of running water?
It was, if you look at her bill
Mid-September.
on the second page or third page.
Yeah.
I guess well, I mean, the first numbers that circle is the amount when the leak was, and the rest are kind of they're averaging
Right.
the rest of the months out.
Apparently, it was the same problem as Mr.
Yeah, the
Tones.
flapper, that's a common issue.
Can you hear it? I don't know if I've had, can you hear that
I've heard,
leaking?
yep.
You can
Sometimes
hear
I have to
it.
jiggle.
Yeah.
The jiggle, I know about the jiggle, okay.
Sometimes that makes it go away, and sometimes it doesn't.
Wow, it's an amazing amount of water. Whew.
Duke, he checked with his homeowner's insurance policy, and a faulty toilet is not covered.
Right,
Right in here.
right, because that's not.
You were thinking
probably-
along
Even if
the
it
same
did, a lot of
lines.
people have deductibles that would be much greater than
Probably,
the 100.
Right,
Yeah.
I don't know if it says on here, Rosie, how long it was, but if you look at the bill date history, it's
Yeah.
compared the same bill date from the last 3 years and then this year's bill.
right.
And you can see the difference is 55,000 gallons.
And so
It adds
you're
up
only
quickly.
abating half of the difference.
And you're only abating half of it.
Half of the difference, so.
Half of the difference, exactly. So you're abating about 27,000.
Yeah,
Gallons, not dollars.
Yes.
yeah. Just think about our water going down the drain, it's so expensive, so.
The only
But-
good part is that it goes back into the earth. We don't have,
True.
city
Right,
sewage,
the
so
Right,
it's
that's true.
not too wasting.
Right,
98%
exactly.
recovery or something like that.
Wow, that's really expensive. So, I'm
So-
fine, I'm fine. I
Okay.
just wanted a minute to look
Sure.
it over.
All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Great. All right. Now we have liquor license renewals.
I'll take one.
And how's the best to go through these? Just,
I'll probably group them.
I think last year you grouped them, unless you had something that you had to hold out.
I don't see any holds in them. I looked them over, and, you know, as long as you, Joe, and everyone's done all their legwork on your end.
Yeah, we have, Michelle really, Michelle Carroll in our office really dove into kind of streamlining this. She created a whole spreadsheet and all the different things that needed to be signed off for each different class. And if it didn't have a check in every class where it was supposed to, it's not in front of you.
Yep,
You only
that's the
have
way it
ones
should
that
be.
have been through everything tonight. So, there's nothing here, we're not asking this year for, hey, this one has everything in except the check hasn't been delivered yet, or this one's
Yeah,
got
no.
everything except for this, could you, approve pending that happening? Everything here is ready to go.
So,
yeah.
Mr. Chair, do you want me to make a motion on
Sure, yeah,
here?
that'd work.
All right, so I make a motion that we approve and I'm looking at the top of my pile here, the Class 2 licenses for the following.
Well, do you want to take them in the order they're on the agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Liquor
let's-
license renewals was.
Liquor license first,
They're
let's
just
see.
a little further back, yeah.
Liquor license first.
Yeah.
All right, so I amend my motion to approve the following liquor licenses to the American Legion, Augustus Peabody Gardner Post 194, 37 School Street. To Myopia Hunt Club, 435 Bay Road. Crosby's Market Incorporated, DBA Crosby's Marketplace, 15 Walnut Road. Ashcar Incorporated, DBA Hamilton Convenience, 178 Bay Road. Lawrence R. Chase Corporation, DBA Harrigan's, excuse me, of Hamilton, 505 Bay Road.
I see a typo.
Marcarell Corporation, DBA Community Package Store.
Where's the typo?
I think it's Marcole is not
Marcole?
correct.
Is that Marcoli?
Marcole.
Yeah, I think it's Mark O'Reilly, isn't it? Isn't there a,
Not to look it up. And that's 45 Bay Road. The Weather Vane Tavern Incorporated, DBA Weather Vane Tavern, 85 Railroad Avenue. Beverly Beer Incorporated, DBA Black Cow Restaurant, 16 to 32 Bay Road. Indigo Restaurant Corporation, DBA 15 Walnut, 15 Walnut Road in Hamilton. And last but not least, Turnbuckle LLC, DBA Honeycomb at 248 Bay Road. And these are liquor licenses, retail packaged goods stores, various liquor licenses.
Any further discussion?
Let me second it first.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Darcy, did you think that one of the names was
Yeah, I think
incorrect?
it's I think there's.
Marcarel, I think you may be right.
I said it right, but
You
when
know,
I
it's
read
written
it,
here,
it-
wrong.
Yes.
It's spelled here wrong. You said
Yes.
Marcarel.
Yeah.
If
Maybe they could
if
just-
you could,
Can you look that up?
vote them, subject to the change,
I
and
would,
then
I would, part of my motion would be to approve
if any of these need to be amended. So
Yeah.
if you could approve them, and if this one needs to be amended, we'll print a new one and ask you to stop by sometime over the next 2 weeks to just sign them.
Yeah.
The others can all be signed tonight, so that we're covered.
And just the other typo is under the BOS names, somebody has William W. Wilson instead of
Oh my
William.
God, is that on all of them?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
We're probably good that he's not here tonight, either William Wilson or William
Yeah, but we should,
Olson.
That's
so
true,
these
so
are
we
all
could
gonna
just
have to be
strike them?
amended.
So,
These are all gonna have to be amended.
Can we just strike the name and
Yeah, I
it'll
think-
still give us a
I
quorum?
would think so. Well, you've got a quorum to vote anyway, and he's not here to sign, so he wouldn't be signing these anyway.
Do each one of us sign our own copies?
No, you're all
No,
gonna
you're gonna
sign these.
sign one.
These
Oh, good,
I
because
have
I've
the
been
master
t-
copies here.
you're gonna do
Thank you.
those ones.
The master copy here, so I'm gonna just line through this name, on all these.
Good catch, Rosie.
Yeah.
I thought, it's like a time warp.
All right, so, any further discussion on the liquor licenses?
I'm good.
Okay.
Just a question, if there were any issues, then that would have been brought to our attention, say from the police or?
If there were any issues, these wouldn't be in front of you tonight.
Right.
Okay, okay,
The spelling is correct.
Is
okay,
it?
good.
Marco? Oh, good. So the only,
Okay,
the
good.
only error we
Yeah, I've
have
always
is
thought it
the,
was Margaret.
Bill Olson,
Olson.
okay.
That's how I've always pronounced it.
Okay, so we would know if there are any
Yep, I
issues?
would-
So it
Okay.
is correct then.
okay, good. So the only error we have is the selectman's name, so that's,
Okay, all right, then I'm fine.
Fine?
Yeah,
All
I
right.
just, it's just new to me to
Yeah.
do these, and I thought, what's the due diligence here? Okay.
Sure, yeah. Good questions. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
All right, great.
Bottoms up.
All right, moving right along, if you don't mind. I'll do
Moving
the-
right along. Common
Uh,
victualer's license.
I make a motion that we approve the common victualer's license for the following. American Legion Augustus Peabody Gardner Post 194 at 37 School Street. Beverly Beer Incorporated, DBA Black Cow Restaurant at 16 to 32 Bay Road. Mark's Pizza and Seafood, 275 Asbury Street. Liva Donuts, forgive my pronunciation, LLC DBA Dunkin' Donuts, 15 Walnut Road. Hamilton Family Markets Incorporated, DBA Crosby's Marketplace at 15 Walnut Road. Akshar Incorporated, DBA Hamilton Convenience, 178 Bay Road. Hamilton House of Pizza, or the Hop as we call it in my family, 40 Railroad Avenue. Cumberland Farms Incorporated, store number 6747 at 121 Bay Road. Honeycomb, 248 Bay Road. Myopia Hunt Club, 435 Bay Road. Weather Vane Tavern, 85 Railroad Avenue. The Community House, 284 Bay Road. And that concludes it.
Do you want to second that, Darcy?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion?
I'll just ask a question. So when these particular licenses are approved, I've just noticed that sometimes there's debris outside stores, and I just wonder, is that part of their sort of diligence to be careful about making sure the areas are cleaned up after their items are sold? Or is it by providing adequate trash cans or something? Or am I just...
I don't know, would this be related to these licenses?
No.
Could you hold
I've never
these up?
seen it related in that
Okay.
way.
Yeah.
But certainly if there's an enforcement issue on kind of maintaining, cleanly, I'll have to ask
Health type of thing.
Board of Health type thing. I have the Board of Health, and I'll ask the police to see if there's anything else in the local code that we could try to enforce. If you
Yeah.
have anybody in particular in mind, please let me know
Okay.
privately.
I
and,
will,
I'll
I will,
ask-
yeah.
I'll ask someone to go by and talk to them.
Yeah, just a question. Okay, I'm fine.
Yep.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Now we have Class 2 motor vehicle sales license renewals.
I make a motion that we approve the Class 2 licenses for the following. Hamilton Enterprises at 260 Asbury Street. A&M Motors Incorporated, 203 Highland Street. KJ Motors LLC, 247 Forest Street. And that's it.
Second?
You know, I have a question.
Yes, further discussion, Rosie. Yes.
Sorry, I just, pardon my ignorance, but
No,
I
no,
don't
no.
know what this is. Explain to me. Somebody help me to
It
understand.
allows them to
cars.
operate fixing cars. Oh, selling cars. Selling cars.
Selling cars. Okay.
And there's a good handful of restrictions on the Class 2 licenses as to what they can and can't do, how long the stock can be around and stuff like that. It's all fairly regulated. We've had a few, actually, people over the years come and look for approval, and we've denied it.
If there have
because of-
been issues.
Well, their operation hasn't filled all the blanks, as Joe said, checked all the boxes and that kind of stuff, so.
And we would know because people would make complaints to town
Right, and
manager.
you can tell by the application sometimes what they're trying to do. And these ones, they're established. We've been approving them for a good
In
handful.
addition, it says no vehicles to be sold or stored on
On premises,
premises. So, and that's for all of them.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's not like you're gonna have a car lot in your neighborhood or something.
okay.
It's a different license.
Right, okay, good.
Yeah, but the answer to that, I have to say anything else.
Yep.
We're good.
Okay, so I'm comfortable. Thank you.
All right. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Right?
All right, great. Thank you. And
All
then
right.
finally, yes, entertainment license.
And we've only got one, right?
Looks like-
Just one, right? I move that we approve the weekday entertainment license for 15 Walnut Road, Hamilton, Mass. Indigo Restaurant Corporation, DBA 15 Walnut.
With the conditions set forth on Appendix A.
Mhm.
Second.
Second. Rosie, further discussion?
Of course.
Yeah?
So when did the closing time or the entertainment license get changed to 11:30? For some reason, I thought it was.
Is it mainly
11.
music?
It's mainly
It's music.
It's music. It's only music.
It's really just if they want somebody in there playing a guitar, they can play until close.
Okay. Well, I do remember it was changed maybe a year or two ago. I just thought it was to 11. I didn't know to 11:30. It's minor. Okay. I'm fine. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great.
So I'll ask you, we know that there's a typo on all of these licenses. Fortunately for us, the person who would be impacted by that is not here and not voting. You can sign these certificates here tonight the way they are. I believe that would still make them legal documents. I've crossed that name out. Or if you prefer it to be accurate, we can adjust them all. And then that signature block will just go blank anyway because
Wasn't here to
he wasn't here to
vote.
vote, so.
I'm
he won't-
comfortable just keeping it simple.
completely
I
up
would
to-
say, like Darcy said, I'm comfortable with kind of keeping it simple and signing them tonight,
Yep.
but follow up
Yep,
with council to see that that's okay.
yeah, I'll double check, but I don't think that there'll be a
These are
problem.
We have a
posted
quorum.
in the
They're posted in the
establishment.
Posted in the establishment.
So I
That's,
don't
that's the
know
only
if we
thing,
wanted to see.
yeah,
Maybe Bill would want his name.
Want it? Even if you didn't get to sign it?
what,
Well, he could come by during the day tomorrow.
why don't we have it fixed?
Okay.
Because to Jeff's point, you're right, it is displayed in the establishment, and it should be correct.
Okay.
Whether his name is, signature's there or not.
So these will be, I'll have these fixed tomorrow. I'll send you out a quick email that, hey, they're fixed, they're here whenever you're free.
Come by.
Okay,
We just
good.
need them done by December 31st.
Okay.
Because these all take effect.
Perfect.
So I will, for your information, there is a business that has a common victual license that is not in here and is not being renewed. They've been asked several times to provide their information. They haven't. My various different departments in our building today tried to reach out to make contact, to try to get them to get their stuff in here today. We left messages that basically said, effective January 1st, you won't be able to open.
Yeah, my follow-up was, I know that December 31st is the sunset on this because we had an issue with an establishment that we approved tonight
Yep.
last
Nope.
year.
We told
So-
them that on January 1st, you won't be able to open for business. My understanding is that there is potentially, they're trying to work a sale of the business, and I think I don't know, I don't want to speculate, but for whatever reason, nobody, either the seller or the buyer, has followed through to fill out the paperwork. So on January 1st, if you hear somebody says, hey, such and such business is closed, why? That is why. They did not provide their paperwork to us. Multiple efforts to get them to do so, going back to November 9th.
Okay.
We started reaching out to them in November, so they didn't follow through, so.
Right, it's on them.
Okay.
Excellent.
That doesn't mean that you can't come back in January and,
Do.
reopen.
Right.
They'll reopen, but they won't, we
Right,
won't
they
let
still
them.
gotta do the paperwork.
All right. Next item, Board and Committee Code of Conduct and Social Media Policy. This was just, and this is for all of us for discussion, but I think a couple things to hit on. One is in terms of the Code of Conduct, it's just a good reminder to go through this and read through it. How we treat, what our relationship is with the community, what our relationship is with the town manager, what our relationships are with each other, and what our relationships are with the town staff. This was first adopted by the Board of Selectmen in 2013, and every year we've kind of made it a point to make sure it's something that we all agree with and are comfortable with. In some years, we've all signed it. I think we all agreed that this year we wouldn't be signing it, but we would all agree that this code of conduct made sense and was worthy of following. So, I don't know, does anybody else have anything they'd like to add to that?
I would just kind of, probably people at home heard me whispering the Darcy over here, but I asked Darcy if she had signed the code of conduct, because in my memory, typically when we do a election, everything like that, one of the first kind of things you do is you get your little packet, you
Yeah.
get your MMA thing about Board of Selectmen, and you get a copy of the code of conduct that we did. I think the last time it was revised was 2013. I don't think we've updated it since then.
Right.
And then the social media policy that Joe and I worked on last year before you two were on the board, it should be part of that whole welcome to the board thing, but I don't think that happened this go-around. So,
Just remember the ethics.
yeah, the ethics
Yeah,
training, the
yes,
online
that's
thing and
what I
stuff like
remember
that.
Yeah.
But we have an additional code of conduct that I think Joe sent out, and I had sent Joe, did you send that, or was it the
Is it-
social
is
media
this it?
policy?
No, it's in your packets. I know
That's
it's in
it,
your
yeah,
packets.
that's it.
Yeah,
I don't know if it came in the email.
I never saw this.
So maybe it's the first time you've seen it. I also sent Joe a larger packet that
That's in the packets.
the
Oh, yes, I
MMA
did.
sends out,
Yep.
Yeah,
or that you can get
scan.
online, that's kind of a, how
Yeah,
to get along kind of thing.
Sean, this might not have made it into the packet because I didn't have it when we sent the packets out by
Okay.
email. But it's in your hard packets and I sent it.
Yeah.
I forwarded it this afternoon in email, so you have it in your email.
Interesting.
And, we've also been talking about wanting to get, not not just for the Board of Selectmen, but for all boards and committees, an opportunity to have Copeland and Page kind of come in and, or KP Law as they are now known, come in and talk to, have a kind of a forum on kind of just good practice on how boards and committees should act and what the relevant statutes and laws are that govern how we do our business. So we're trying to talk to them about doing that hopefully in January. That'll be, just another refresher or reinforcer of this kind of discussion, just to remind folks that, once you're an elected or appointed member of a board, I'm an appointed person here in town, we have, a set of expectations that we're supposed to meet, so.
Right, and I
need
think,
to be
I think
cognizant
with the
of that.
social media policy, I don't think there was we didn't have to sign it, it was just our general policy, if I remember
So
correctly.
you adopted 3 policies last year. All 3 were adopted and voted by the Board of Selectmen. They included a set of policies for appointed
Boards and
committees,
committees,
and a set for employees, and a set for users.
Right.
One of the discussions was there is no real mechanism to ensure compliance for elected members, because the only real
The
compliant measure is the
constituents'
constituents' votes. But
Although there is
for
a
everybody
process.
else, we could really kind of talk about it.
Right.
so.
There is a process for recalling an elected official. We don't have it in place in this town, but there is a
Yeah,
process.
yeah, we don't
The
have
town of
that in
Hamilton
place in
doesn't
Hamilton,
have that. We could.
No, but what I'm saying is there is a
Right,
remedy if
there's
someone
a
felt
remedy.
strongly
Right,
enough.
Right, and I think that was when we were writing that social media policy, that was one kind of our, I don't want to say one of our biggest issues, but one of the issues was what happens if someone just says whatever to us and they're an elected official, and it was basically, believe it was the board would publicly talk about it, and it would be vetted that way, and you would have a public reprimand, but it wouldn't be binding of anything really, but it would just be that, the public
Censure.
form, a censure, right? And I would probably recommend, Jeff, that we send out that Board of Selectmen Code of Conduct so that everyone can sign it, and we should probably do that every April, whether you've been on the board or not, and kind of a re-up like we do with our ethics stuff. I know the planning board has a separate code of conduct that some members of that board, when they were writing it, refused to sign it.
Yeah.
I remember that.
But I think that everyone here should review it and sign it. And I think we should discuss some more about the code of conduct at another time, I think.
We would sign this as reviewed. Is that what you would like for us to do?
Yeah, the original one, it does have a space, and I don't know if it's on the printout, but basically it just says you've read it, you agree to abide by it is to the best of your ability.
Of course.
It's a
Yeah.
best practice.
Best practice, right?
Okay, are you suggesting to do this in April? 'Cause
I
I'm
would,
of
I
a
would
different
suggest that the current members of the board that haven't signed it should look
Okay.
at it and sign it,
Not
and
sure
then
if
we
I've
should do
signed
it
it or
every
not.
April as part of our whatever
Yeah.
board member turns over should be the new thing. And I've kind of been pushing for a number of years, and I apologize I haven't gotten very far with it, but I think maybe our new umbrella thing might help with a little bit. I've been talking about some type of a dossier or packet kind of a thing for people coming onto a new board, where it's like the MMA handbook, especially for selectmen, or a kind of a little boot camp that gets you through all the stuff that you're a policy board, you're not operations, stuff like that. And planning board would have something with their rules and regs and the bylaws and stuff like that. So the new members know the kind of history and what their role is in it. Maybe even just almost like a job description too, included in that packet or binder. Just because a lot of people do get on these boards and they think they know what's what, and then you get into it and you don't know. You don't know the full details of it. As both of you can attest to, I'm sure there's a lot more that happens in the
I
Board of
didn't
Selectmen
know
than you
what a
thought
custom license
previously.
was
Right.
tonight.
Well, being on the FinCom for almost 3 years, I had a pretty good idea of what was
Right.
going on.
Right. But nonetheless, I think something like that would be very helpful for people, even at-large members that haven't been on other boards before. They're coming in just as a volunteer, just to get their kind of ground rules for what is expected of them.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody have anyone else have anything they'd like to add? Yeah, okay. All right.
And
What's that?
looks like we're at the end of our
Well, it
agenda.
looks like, yes, wow. Well, yeah, we are because unfortunately Bill couldn't be here tonight, and he's done a lot of work on vote tabulation systems, automatic systems. So I think it makes sense to wait till he gets back to have
Yeah,
him
because we don't know
present that.
anything.
Right.
Yeah.
I know, I was looking forward to that.
Yeah.
So he did send me some information late this afternoon when he realized he couldn't make the meeting. I forwarded it to you as
Good.
for information
Right.
purposes only. You can feel free to review that before this appears on the next agenda. So.
Okay.
So Joe, is this something we would plan to incorporate in this coming town meeting?
I think so. I think that, there's a couple different ways for us to approach it. I don't want to steal Bill's thunder.
Okay, don't
but,
say anything then.
It doesn't sound like it doesn't seem to me like it's something that couldn't be done in time for this year's town meeting.
That's pretty
so.
exciting. I think it's great. So, we'll see.
Okay, does anybody have anything that they'd like to see on the next agenda or two?
Everything.
Updates, lots of updates.
So could I ask for a little bit of direction? So I guess if I could at this point, before you get into talking about next agenda updates, we had talked about having the presentation of the budget, instead of doing it on a Saturday, doing it at a Board of Selectmen's meeting. Currently, you have meetings scheduled for January 13th and January 27th. If you're willing, I'd like to try to do it on the 27th, or we could do a separate special meeting just for that. But again, I prefer on a weeknight so that we're kind of not putting our department heads into that kind of position, coming in here. And it's your call, but that's just my request and recommendation.
My only comment about that is if we're going to do that, I have no objection to doing it on a weeknight, but I would like to start earlier because,
Yes,
whoa,
yes,
Like-
like 6 o'clock.
Good
We
idea.
can start at 6.
Or something.
Yeah.
yes,
Very
yeah,
good idea, yeah.
that would be,
Yeah.
the
Even earlier.
latest, even earlier, like maybe if we
Better.
could make special plans to start at 5 that night, because I know that these meetings can go for a while.
Yeah.
I average about 3 hours for that
Yeah, that would
budget.
be about
Yeah.
I think last year we started at 9. I was done in town hall around 12:30, 12:45. So that means their meeting ended
Yeah.
before.
Is that okay with you, Sean, to start
I
early
can do
on
that, I
that?
just don't know about Bill. I'm home at 3, and I could just bring my kids with me.
Yeah, well, maybe we could plan it ahead of time and just see ask
Maybe
Bill
he
if he
can
could
make
arrange
arrangements
his.
to
Because
be here.
it may be, I mean, I don't get off the train until, I think, 5:10 on a good day, so I would make arrangements to leave early on one particular day. That's my only request, because I'm just,
I think the added advantage is it'll be televised, which I
Yeah.
think is a
Yeah,
really
better.
important meeting to be on TV, and
Yeah.
typically on Saturdays, they're not.
Yep.
So we should plan on January 27th.
27th, all right. And then in that same spirit, since Sharon Kushida is willing to come in here, we have a meeting, starts that week that, well, if we pushed off the every other week collection to start on the 20th, and you wanted to have her on the agenda on the 13th, she could probably make a short 10 or 15-minute presentation. You'd probably have an audience for that. Also in that meeting, I think we're planning to have some ideas and suggestions for you to start to consider around water rates. So
Yeah, it was one of my-
There'll be 2 big things in that meeting agenda.
Okay.
And then obviously whatever else you all want to put on there, but trying to
Okay.
get that started, if that's okay with you.
Yeah,
yep. Joe, when do we see the MVP, and when do we vote on that? Because there are some interesting
I'll
things
check with
in there.
Patrick and get back to you.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. And then the open space recreation plan, does that come back to us again?
I don't know if that needs a I don't think that needs a sign off by the Board of
I don't think
It
we-
doesn't, it was just informational?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Are we still new businessing?
yes, we're still new business.
New businessing.
Financial policies.
Yep.
We talked about water rates. Goals.
Yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
goals.
Thank you. New goals for Joe D.
Goals for Joe D. Budget, of course. Master plan, which works into our budget talk. I also have a calendar here that we had made up just in the interim before Joe was here. Robin Crosby helped us work on kind of a monthly calendar of kind of the cadence of things that happen. And I think, Joe, you maybe updated it when you were first here, but I'm looking at December here, and we're doing fairly well. But what I do see here is Boards and committees notified December 3rd of annual reports due by law, what is it, 5-2A, 60 days prior to the town meeting, so we should get on that if we haven't. Also, let's see, and here it says Monday, December 17th, Board of Selectmen meeting, review estimates and budget progress due to Board of Selectmen from accountant, and Planning Board submits zoning articles to Board of Selectmen for ATM by Tuesday, December 25th.
What? That's so early.
Yeah,
That seems fairly early, right?
That seems a little early.
And I know when.
Not great, not hugely early, but a little bit early. And I think that when we did the budget calendar, the draft budget calendar for this year, I had some of those things in there, but a little bit later, so.
Yeah, no, that's fine, as long as we're still kind of on top of it, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that we're
Yep.
still trying to shoot for some of these things on the calendar here.
About an update on CATA.
Actually,
Thing,
Yep.
the people who agreed to join.
Yep, I mentioned, I reported earlier that CATA voted last week to accept Hamilton in, and the board agreed that I'm the designee to work on the as Hamilton's representative on their board of directors. And we're going to start meeting with a group of constituencies here in town and a representative from CATA to start to plan what our service would look like.
What do you think, a couple of months till we're up and running with it? Or you
Yeah,
think it's gonna be
Felicia seemed to believe, yeah, I'm sorry?
I thought you had said January.
Yeah, but we haven't started meeting yet, so we need to start getting meetings so we could try and get going as soon as possible. Yeah, so I will send out an email tomorrow,
Okay.
trying to get our committee together and find a date to meet with Felicia. Hopefully, there's a little bit of downtime in between the holidays that we can maybe start an initial meeting with Felicia.
And one last thing, since we're also talking about future stuff with different changes, obviously the trash bi-weekly change, not so much our board maybe, but maybe have the waste reduction committee in again just around that time, and maybe even they come and we work in with, was it Sharon from?
Yeah, they're very familiar with Sharon. My guess is if we announce that Sharon's going to be here on January 13th,
Yeah.
you'll probably see them show up anyway.
I just think
But
we
but
really need
we'll
to-
make sure to invite them.
Yeah.
did you speak with Wenham about having a joint meeting with Sharon? I remember I sent an email saying, was that
yeah.
something that would be?
Yeah, and I sent it to Anthony, and he hasn't
Okay.
replied. But he and I did talk earlier tonight, and we didn't talk about that. We were talking about a couple of other things. But I'll ask him again. Let me reach out to him tomorrow.
Yeah, and I just think we really need to do our due diligence in making it is known as humanly possible that the change is going to be happening sometime soon, because I don't want to have people not know about it and then wonder why the trash is out, and then you get a lot of phone calls to DPW, et cetera, and it creates a headache for everybody. So the more PR we can do on that, the better. Maybe even something in the Chronicle, something up on HWCAM
Yeah, I think-
website,
Oh, yeah.
robocall, all that kind of stuff would be great. And I think it kind of coupled with that, and I think the Waste Reduction Committee is working on a new postcard and stuff like that.
Right, and do they have a contact? Because they had said that they would even go to people's houses and help them
Yeah, they've got a
figure
portion of
out-
our website, and I think there's some
Okay.
contact stuff on there you can
Okay.
reach out to.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
So
It's phone
that's
number.
good.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's fun.
And they're very sincere about
Yeah.
that, so that, I mean, it's good.
One last thing, just because I'm throwing everything at you. When Chief was here last time, we talked about parking,
Sharon Road.
signage, Sharon Road, and traffic study for just
Okay.
everything.
So Sharon Road should go on your next agenda too, because the end of the 30-day or 90-day trial period is coming out. And on the parking and traffic study, Chief Stevens, myself, Patrick Raffett, and Tim Olson met this morning. HTC was not able to be there, but they were updated during the course of the meeting through text and with an email afterwards. We are moving forward with a plan to do traffic study for the town, but also in particular for the downtown district, a parking study. And we've asked HDC to pay for the parking portion of the study.
That makes sense to me.
So we're putting together what the scope would be, particularly for the parking, because that'll dictate some of the price.
Yeah.
And we have an estimate, we think, we're going to find a way to pay for it in this year's budget from our available line items. Tim thinks for the traffic portion, he can use Chapter 90 funds. In fact, he's already reached out to the state to.
Yeah, and I don't, that's
Confirm
not
that.
that much money really, I don't
No.
think, for the traffic study.
And the state's already they haven't given us an official email or a letter yet, but they
they're
said, yeah,
receptive
that sounds like something
That sounds
we'd let you do.
feasible. Good.
So it's really just getting HDC to pay for the parking portion, because the parking portion wouldn't be able to be covered by Chapter 9.
Right.
Good, very good.
So we are moving forward on that. And my suggestion at the meeting this morning, the one thing I brought to the table, because they're all far more knowledgeable in their subject areas than I am, was that whenever the consultant is chosen to do the parking study and the traffic study, that they work with a committee that include a representative of the neighborhood, a representative of the business community down there, Lieutenant James from the police department, because he's been very knowledgeable about that whole area for a long time, and a representative of the HDC, and that was well received by everybody else at the meeting. So hopefully that's what we'll do. We'll have representation in that study process.
Good, very good.
Joe, last time we talked about the MAPC representative, you were going to reach out to other boards, have you heard back?
I think we sent it out, but I haven't heard anything back.
Okay, because I'm still interested in doing that, and some of my colleagues thought that would be a good idea, so I'll just wait to hear.
Okay, I'll get you.
Thank you.
Get you an answer.
Good. All right.
Running water.
Yeah,
Anything
no.
else?
And is that it? Do we make a
Yeah.
motion to adjourn?
I think so.
Did you make it? Go
I
for
will
it.
make a motion to adjourn.
And I'll second.
All right. All those in favor?
Yay.
Aye. And
Well, we
thanks,
didn't
thanks,
discuss
Bill
it.
Melville in the booth tonight.
Yeah,
Happy holidays, everybody. Thank you, Bill, for.
yeah.
Darcy and I wore our festive red tonight.
Is that?